The conference room buzzed with anticipation, the air thick with the scent of fresh coffee and ambition. I stood at the back, my heart pounding as I watched my best friend, Lauren, take the stage. She was radiant in her tailored blazer, her smile confident as she clicked through her presentation slides. The room, filled with executives, investors, and industry leaders, leaned forward, captivated. "This is my vision," she said, her voice steady, "a revolutionary app that connects local artisans with global markets." Applause erupted, but my hands stayed frozen at my sides. That wasn't her vision. It was mine. Every word, every slide, every idea she just claimed as her own had come from me. My name is Maya Chen, and at 29, I'd just been betrayed by the person I trusted most. But as Lauren basked in the spotlight, she had no idea I'd make sure she paid for it. Life before that moment had been a vibrant tapestry woven with threads of hard work, hope, and quiet dreams. I lived in Austin, Texas, a city where the creative pulse thrummed through every street, from the neon-lit bars of 6th Street to the sprawling tech campuses nestled among live oaks. My days were spent as a product manager at a tech startup, where I designed user experiences for apps that millions use daily. The office was a hive of energy, glass-walled meeting rooms filled with the clatter of keyboards, whiteboards scrawled with ideas, and the faint hum of espresso machines fueling late-night sprints. I thrived in the chaos, sketching wireframes on napkins at food truck parks, debating features over tacos at Torchy's, and celebrating launches with my team under the string lights of a South Congress patio. My apartment was my sanctuary, a cozy loft in East Austin with exposed brick walls, cluttered with sketchbooks where I doodled app interfaces, succulents that thrived despite my erratic watering, and colorful throws I'd picked up from markets in Morocco and Guatemala. I'd pour myself into my work, often staying late to perfect a feature or pitch a new idea, my desk a battlefield of coffee mugs, post-it notes, and half-finished prototypes. Beyond my job, my heart belonged to a side project, a dream I'd nurtured since college, an app to empower local artisans by connecting them directly to buyers worldwide. I'd been inspired by my parents' bakery in Houston, where my mother spent hours shaping almond cookies with the same care she'd once used as a seamstress in Shanghai. I'd seen artisans at markets in Austin, their tables laden with hand-woven textiles and carved wooden bowls, struggling to reach beyond local buyers. My app would change that, giving them a platform to thrive. I'd spent countless nights researching global markets, coding prototypes in my dimly lit living room, and drafting business plans that grew dog-eared from revision. The work was grueling, but it felt like a calling, a way to honor the creators who'd shaped my world. My parents were my biggest cheerleaders, sending care packages with handwritten notes tucked among the cookies, "Keep shining, Maya." My co-worker, Sam, a lanky coder with a penchant for dad jokes, would tease me about my endless energy but stay late to debug my code, his laughter echoing through the empty office. Everything felt possible, like I was on the cusp of something extraordinary. Lauren had been my anchor through it all, a constant since our college days at UT Austin. We'd met in a design class, bonding over late-night study sessions in the library, our laptops surrounded by empty coffee cups and crumpled notes. She was a graphic designer, her creativity as bold as her laugh, her portfolio filled with vibrant logos and sleek branding. We'd weathered everything together, heartbreaking breakups, the stress of first jobs, the chaos of moving to new cities. When I landed my startup gig, Lauren was the first to celebrate, showing up with a bottle of cheap sparkling wine and a playlist of 90s hits. Our friendship was a safe harbor, a place where I could be unfiltered, sharing my wildest dreams and deepest fears. When I started working on the Artisan app, Lauren was my first confidant. We'd sit on my balcony, the Austin skyline twinkling below, and brainstorm over glasses of rose, the air warm with the scent of mesquite from nearby barbecues. "This could be huge, Maya," she'd say, her eyes bright with excitement. "You're going to change lives." I trusted her implicitly, sharing every detail, my market research, my mock-ups, even my insecurities about competing in a crowded tech landscape. She'd joined a startup accelerator program, a a prestigious incubator for entrepreneurs, and I'd cheered her on, attending her early pitch events and texting her encouragement before big meetings. I never imagined she'd use my trust as a weapon, that the ideas I poured out in those late-night talks would become her ammunition. But beneath the surface, shadows were gathering, ones I was too trusting, too caught up in our friendship, to notice. The signs of Lauren's betrayal crept in like a slow fog, subtle at first, easy to dismiss in the haze of our shared history. Her warmth began to cool, her texts growing shorter, her responses clipped. Swamped with the accelerator, she'd say when I suggested grabbing coffee at Joe's, her favorite spot on South Congress. I'd nod, blaming her busy schedule, telling myself it was temporary. But there were moments that pricked at my intuition, like thorns I tried to ignore. One afternoon, we met at a coffee shop, the air heavy with the scent of roasted beans and cinnamon. As I leaned over to show her a new app feature on my phone, she flipped her laptop shut, her smile too quick, too bright. "Just work stuff," she said, but her eyes darted to the side, avoiding mine. I brushed it off, hating the flicker of doubt in my chest. Another time, I overheard her on a call as we walked along Lady Bird Lake, the water shimmering under the afternoon sun. "Yeah, it's an artisan platform," she said, her voice hushed, glancing at me before stepping away. When I asked later, she laughed, her tone airy. "Just a client project, nothing big." But the knot in my stomach tightened, a warning I couldn't fully articulate. The doubts grew sharper when I found her notebook, left behind after a rare evening at my place. We'd ordered takeout from Thai Kuan, the spicy aroma of green curry filling the loft as we chatted about her accelerator progress. She'd left early, citing a deadline, and I found the notebook tucked between couch cushions the next morning. Its pages were filled with sketches, wireframes, color schemes, icons, that looked eerily like my app's interface. The layouts mirrored my mock-ups, down to the placement of buttons and the font I'd chosen after weeks of testing. My heart sank, but I told myself it was a coincidence. Inspiration, she'd called it when I texted her a photo of the pages, her reply breezy. "You know how designers are, always borrowing vibes." I wanted to believe her, to cling to the friendship that had carried me through so much. But the notebook stayed on my desk, a silent accusation. Then, a week before the pitch event, I noticed Lauren's name on the accelerator schedule, listed for a solo presentation. "What's your pitch about?" I'd asked over brunch, the clatter of plates at Kirby Lane Cafe masking my unease. She'd shrugged, poking at her migas. "Just a design concept. You'll see." Her evasiveness was a red flag, but I didn't push. I wish I had. The truth crashed over me 3 days before the event, a tidal wave that left me gasping. Unable to sleep, I'd sat at my desk, the glow of my laptop cutting through the darkness of my loft. I logged into our shared cloud drive to review my app's business plan, needing to refine a section on market scalability. The drive was a digital scrapbook of our friendship, photos from road trips, playlists we'd made, and folders for my app's development. But there, buried in a folder labeled Lauren's Pitch, was my entire project. My slides, my financial models, my branding, all copied, renamed, and stamped with her name as the creator. My breath caught, the screen blurring as I clicked through file after file. She'd taken my mock-ups, my market research, even my tagline, empowering artisans, connecting worlds. The files were identical to mine, except for one chilling detail: my name was gone, replaced by hers. The betrayal was a physical ache, a weight pressing on my chest until I could barely breathe. Lauren, my best friend, had stolen my dream and planned to present it as her own to the most influential people in tech. I sat there, the hum of my apartment's air conditioner the only sound, my hands trembling with a mix of rage and disbelief. She thought she'd get away with it, that I'd stay silent, oblivious. She was wrong. The conference room that day was a battlefield, and Lauren had fired the first shot with devastating precision. As she stood on that stage, claiming my idea with a smile that radiated confidence. I felt the world narrow to a single point of white-hot rage. My hands trembled, not with fear, but with the clarity of what I had to do. The executives nodded approvingly, investors scribbled notes, and the room buzzed with admiration for her stolen brilliance. But I saw the truth in the way she avoided my gaze, the slight tension in her shoulders as she clicked through slides I'd spent years perfecting. She knew I was there, standing at the back, my presence a shadow she couldn't shake. She knew what she'd done, and she thought I'd let it slide, that our friendship would keep me quiet. I could have stormed the stage, shouted her lies to the world, let my anger erupt in a spectacle that matched her audacity. But that wasn't my way. I'd built my career on strategy, on outsmarting challenges with precision, on turning chaos into order. Lauren wanted the spotlight. I'd let her have it, for now. But I'd make sure it burned her until she couldn't stand the heat. The discovery in the cloud drive had been my wake-up call, a jolt that shattered my trust and ignited my resolve. Over the past year, I'd meticulously documented every step of my app's development, a habit born from years in tech where ideas could vanish without proof. Every sketch was dated, every line of code versioned, every email with feedback archived in folders labeled by month. I'd even filed a provisional patent for the app's core algorithm, a unique system for matching artisans with buyers based on cultural and aesthetic preferences. It was a step Lauren didn't know about, one I'd taken on Jenna's advice after a late-night call where I'd confessed my fears of being outpaced in the industry. "Protect your work," she'd said, her voice firm. "You're too good to lose this." The night I found Lauren's files, I'd spent hours downloading my evidence, my fingers flying over the keyboard as I organized it into a folder I called Truth. Screenshots of my original files, timestamps showing creation dates years before Lauren's copies, emails with Sam discussing feature iterations, and a PDF of my patent application, all of it was there, a digital fortress I'd built without knowing I'd need it. I emailed Jenna, my patent lawyer, with a simple message: "I need to protect my work. Urgently." Her reply came at dawn: "We've got this. Your documentation is airtight. Let's talk tomorrow." But protecting my work wasn't enough. I needed to act, to ensure Lauren's theft didn't go unanswered. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd expected, not just because of the app, but because of what she'd meant to me. We'd shared secrets, dreams, moments that felt unbreakable, late nights laughing over bad rom-coms, road trips to Marfa where we'd stargazed in the desert, her hand in mine as I cried through a breakup. How had it come to this? I sat in my loft that night, the city's lights flickering beyond my window, and let myself feel it all, the hurt, the anger, the disbelief. I thought of my parents, who taught me to trust but also to stand up for myself. I thought of the artisans I wanted to help, their faces vivid from markets I'd visited in Oaxaca and Chiang Mai. Lauren's betrayal wasn't just personal, it was a theft of their potential, too. By morning, I knew I wouldn't let her win. I'd expose her, not with tears or accusations, but with the truth, sharp and undeniable. The morning of the pitch event, I moved with a precision honed by years of navigating high-stakes projects. I dressed carefully, choosing a navy blazer and white blouse that felt like armor, my hair pulled back to signal focus. Before leaving my loft, I reviewed the Truth folder one last time, ensuring every file was accessible, every timestamp clear. I contacted Dr. Emily Tran, the Accelerator's director, a woman whose reputation for integrity was legendary in Austin's tech scene. My email was polite but direct, attaching a summary of my app's development timeline and a link to my patent filing. "I believe there may be a misunderstanding about a presentation today," I wrote, my fingers hesitating over the send button. Doubt crept in. What if Emily dismissed me? What if Lauren's charm won her over? But I pushed it aside. This was my work, my dream, and I wouldn't let fear stop me. Emily's reply came within the hour. "Thank you, Ms. Chen. I'll review this and be present at the pitch. We take these matters seriously." Relief washed over me, but it was fleeting. The real test was coming. I also called Sam, who'd been with me through every stage of the app's creation. We'd spent countless nights in the office, debugging code while sharing bad takeout and worse jokes. "If I need you to back me up today, can you?" I asked, my voice steady despite the butterflies in my stomach. His response was immediate, his tone fierce with loyalty. "Say the word, Maya. I've got your back. Lauren's got no business claiming your work." I smiled, grateful for his unwavering support. I spent the rest of the morning preparing, rehearsing what I'd say if given the chance, my laptop open to the evidence that would undo Lauren's lies. By the time I walked into the conference room, the air buzzing with the energy of ambition, I wasn't just a guest. I was a player, armed with truth and ready to rewrite the narrative Lauren thought she'd stolen. As Lauren's presentation unfolded, the room was hers, every eye drawn to her polished delivery. She clicked through slides I'd spent years crafting, her voice weaving a story of passion and innovation that wasn't hers to tell. The executives nodded, their pens scratching notes. Investors leaned forward, murmuring approval. I stood at the back, my heart pounding but my resolve unshaken. Lauren's confidence was a mask, and I saw through it, the way she avoided my gaze, the slight tremor in her hand as she gestured to a slide about market scalability, one I'd revised just weeks ago. She knew I was there, a silent threat she thought she could outrun. The applause when she finished was thunderous, a wave of admiration for a lie. But I felt a strange calm, a certainty that this was her peak, the moment before her fall. I waited, my breath steady, until the Q&A session began, the room's energy shifting as hands rose with questions. An investor, a man with silver hair and a sharp suit, spoke first. "Lauren, can you walk us through your development process? How did you come up with this concept?" She launched into a polished answer, claiming late-night brainstorming sessions and a personal passion for artisans, her words dripping with sincerity. That's when I stepped forward, my voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Actually, I'd like to clarify something." Every head turned, the air thickening with surprise. Lauren's smile froze, her eyes locking onto mine, wide with panic. "Maya, what are you doing?" she stammered, her voice high and brittle. "This is my project." I didn't flinch, my gaze steady as I addressed the room. "No, it's not. I created this app, from the concept to the code." Lauren copied my files from our shared drive and presented them as her own. "I have the evidence to prove it." The silence was deafening, a collective intake of breath as the room processed my words. Lauren's face paled, her hands clutching the podium as she tried to regain control. "This is ridiculous," she snapped, her voice cracking. "Maya, you're just jealous. We worked on this together." Whispers rippled through the crowd, executives exchanging glances, investors frowning. Dr. Tran, seated in the front row, leaned forward, her expression unreadable but her eyes sharp with scrutiny. An executive, a woman in a crimson dress, raised an eyebrow. "That's a serious accusation, Ms. Chen. Do you have proof?" I nodded, pulling my laptop from my bag, my movements deliberate. "I have timestamps, emails, and a provisional patent filed 6 months ago. I'd be happy to share them with everyone here." Lauren's voice rose, desperate now. "She's lying. This is my work." But her words faltered under the weight of my certainty. Dr. Tran stood, her presence commanding the room. "Let's see the documentation, Ms. Chen. We'll address this now." I connected my laptop to the projector, my hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. Slide by slide, I walked the audience through my work, my voice clear and unwavering. I showed sketches from 2 years ago, drawn in my spiral-bound notebook during a trip to Santa Fe, where I'd met a weaver whose story inspired the app's mission. I displayed emails with Sam, dated long before Lauren's involvement, discussing feature iterations and bug fixes. I presented screenshots of my patent application, filed 6 months ago, its algorithm detailed in technical precision. Each piece was time-stamped, undeniable, a chronicle of my dedication. The final slide showed Lauren's stolen files, their creation date suspiciously recent, mere days before the pitch. The room was silent, the investors' faces hardening as they turned to Lauren, their earlier admiration replaced by skepticism. Sam, who'd slipped into the room during my presentation, spoke up, his voice calm but firm. "I can confirm Maya's work. I helped her code the prototype over a year ago." Lauren was never involved in any development discussions. His words were a hammer, driving the final nail into Lauren's facade. Lauren tried to speak, her voice a frantic jumble. I contributed ideas. I designed the branding. Maya, tell them we collaborated." But her pleas were hollow, drowned out by the evidence glaring from the projector screen. Dr. Tran's voice cut through, cold and authoritative. "Ms. Parker, this is plagiarism at best, theft at worst. Step aside. We'll be addressing this immediately." Lauren's face crumpled, her shoulders sagging as she moved away from the podium, the spotlight she'd craved now a searing indictment. I felt no pity, only a fierce satisfaction. She'd chosen this path, and now she'd face the consequences she'd earned. The fallout was swift and merciless, a storm that swept through Austin's tech scene with Lauren at its center. Dr. Tran disqualified her from the accelerator program on the spot, citing ethical violations that left no room for appeal. The investors, who'd been so captivated by her stolen pitch, now avoided her, their whispers turning to disdain as they huddled in groups, discussing the scandal. Lauren tried to salvage her reputation, approaching executives with tearful apologies, but they turned away, their trust shattered like glass. She cornered Dr. Tran after the session, her voice trembling as she pleaded for a second chance. "It was a mistake," she said, but Dr. Tran's response was unyielding. "You didn't make a mistake, Ms. Parker. You made a choice. And choices have consequences." Lauren left the conference room, her head bowed, her tailored blazer no longer a symbol of confidence but a reminder of her fall. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. My evidence had spoken louder than any accusation could, and the truth had done the rest. Dr. Tran approached me as the room emptied, her expression a mix of respect and regret. "I'm sorry this happened, Maya. Your work is exceptional, and you handled this with remarkable composure. We'd like to discuss your inclusion in the accelerator program. Are you interested?" I nodded, my voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Thank you, Dr. Tran. I'm ready to move forward, on my terms." She smiled, a rare warmth in her eyes. I expected nothing less. "Let's schedule a meeting for tomorrow." That night, I went home to my loft, the city's lights casting a soft glow through my windows. I poured myself a glass of rose, the same kind Lauren and I used to share on my balcony, and sat at my desk, the truth folder still open on my laptop. The betrayal still stung, a sharp ache that hadn't faded, but so did my victory. I'd taken back what was mine, not with anger, but with the precision of someone who knew her worth. I raised my glass to the empty room, a silent toast to the artisans whose dreams I'd protect, to the friend I'd lost, and to the woman I was becoming. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of challenges, triumphs, and quiet reckoning. Lauren's downfall became the talk of Austin's tech scene, a cautionary tale whispered in co-working spaces and tweeted in industry threads. She posted a tearful apology on LinkedIn, claiming a misunderstanding born of stress and ambition, but the post was met with skepticism, comments disabled to avoid the flood of criticism. Her startup, once a darling of the accelerator, lost its funding, the investors unwilling to back someone whose ethics were so publicly tarnished. Mutual friends reached out, their voices heavy with shock. "I can't believe she did that," my college friend Priya said over coffee, her eyes wide. "She always seemed so genuine." I nodded, stirring my latte, the foam swirling in patterns that mirrored my thoughts. She was. Until she wasn't. Some friends tried to mediate, suggesting I forgive her, that our years of friendship deserved a second chance. "She's struggling," one said, her tone pleading. But I wasn't ready. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, and I'd learned to protect my heart as fiercely as my work. The emotional toll was heavier than I'd expected. I'd wake in the night, the sting of Lauren's betrayal fresh, replaying our friendship like a film I couldn't pause. The laughter over bad wine, the road trips to Big Bend where we'd hiked under endless skies, the way she'd hugged me when I got my first tech job, it all felt tainted now, colored by her deceit. I grieved the person I'd thought she was, the sister I'd chosen. My parents sensed my struggle during our weekly calls, their voices warm with concern. "You're stronger than this, Maya," my father said, his accent thick from years in Shanghai. "You've always known how to rise." I smiled, thinking of the almond cookies they'd sent, now stacked in my kitchen, their sweetness a reminder of home. I confided in Sam, too, over late-night coding sessions, the office quiet except for the hum of our laptops. I trusted her, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, his usual humor replaced by quiet understanding. "You didn't do anything wrong, Maya." "She did." His words were a lifeline, pulling me back to myself. The accelerator program became my focus, a beacon in the storm of betrayal. Dr. Tran fast-tracked my application, and I joined the next cohort, my nerves tingling as I prepared to pitch Artisan Connect to a new group of investors. The conference room was different this time, smaller but no less daunting, filled with faces eager for the next big thing. I stood at the podium, my slides projected behind me, and spoke from the heart, about the weaver in Santa Fe, the potter in Chiang Mai, the countless artisans whose work deserved a global stage. The response was overwhelming. 3 firms offered funding within a week, their representatives praising my vision and integrity. I secured a $1.5 million deal, the contract signed in a sleek downtown office, the Austin skyline visible through floor-to-ceiling windows. My team grew, with Sam as my lead developer, and we rented a loft space in East Austin, its walls soon covered in whiteboards scrawled with ideas, prototypes pinned like art. We worked late nights, fueled by coffee and ambition, the air alive with the buzz of creation. The app, now officially named Artisan Connect, launched 3 months later, a moment that felt both surreal and inevitable. Over 2,000 artisans signed up in the first month, their profiles showcasing textiles from Peru, jewelry from Senegal, ceramics from Japan. Buyers flooded the platform, drawn by the authenticity of the stories behind each piece. Industry blogs hailed the app as a game-changer, with headlines like "Artisan Connect redefines e-commerce" and "Maya Chen's vision empowers creators worldwide." I was invited to speak at tech conferences, my inbox filling with requests for interviews and panel discussions. But success didn't erase the challenges. The accelerator was a pressure cooker, with mentors pushing for rapid growth and investors demanding metrics. I navigated it all, learning to balance ambition with authenticity, my nights often spent alone in my loft, sketching new features or staring at the skyline, wondering if I was enough. The betrayal lingered, a shadow that surfaced in quiet moments, but I refused to let it define me. I was building something bigger than Lauren's deceit, something that mattered. Lauren tried to reach out, her texts a patchwork of apologies and excuses. I was desperate, one read, sent at 2 a.m., "The accelerator was my shot," and I panicked. "I didn't mean to hurt you." Another came days later, "Can we talk? I miss you." I didn't respond. Her desperation wasn't my burden, and her words felt hollow after the calculated theft she'd executed. I heard through mutual friends that she'd taken a low-level design job in Dallas, a far cry from the startup stardom she'd chased. Her portfolio, once a beacon of promise, was now overshadowed by whispers of plagiarism, her LinkedIn profile sparse with updates. Our friend group fractured, most siding with me as the truth spread, their messages filled with support. "You didn't deserve this," Priya wrote. "You're better off without her." I appreciated their loyalty, but it didn't fill the void Lauren had left. I missed her, or the version of her I'd believed in, but I'd learned to protect my heart as fiercely as my work. My parents visited a month after the launch, their pride palpable as they toured my new office, its walls alive with sketches and prototypes. My mother hugged me tightly, her eyes misty. "You've made something beautiful, Maya. Not just the app, but you." My father, usually reserved, nodded, his hand on my shoulder. "You've always been our dreamer. Don't let anyone take that away." Their words anchored me, a reminder of the roots that kept me steady. I took them to a food truck park, the air filled with the sizzle of fajitas and the strum of a street guitarist, and we laughed over memories of their bakery, of my childhood spent kneading dough beside them. It was a moment of healing, a bridge between the pain of betrayal and the promise of what lay ahead. 6 months after the pitch event, I stood before a packed auditorium at a national tech summit in San Francisco, the stage lights warm against my skin. Artisan Connect had grown beyond my wildest dreams, with 10,000 artisans and partnerships in 5 countries, from Mexico to Indonesia. I spoke not just about the app, but about the journey behind it, the weaver in Santa Fe whose textiles now sold in Paris, the potter in Chiang Mai whose bowls graced homes in New York. I shared my vision for a world where creators are valued, where their stories are as vital as their work. But I also spoke of resilience, of standing up when others try to tear you down. Innovation isn't just about ideas, I said, my voice steady, resonant. It's about integrity, about owning your work and refusing to let it be stolen. The applause was thunderous, a wave that carried me forward, but my eyes caught a figure in the back row. Lauren stood there, her face drawn, her once polished blazer replaced by a simple sweater, her presence a ghost from a past I'd outgrown. She'd come, perhaps to network, perhaps to see me falter, or perhaps to seek some fragment of redemption. I didn't acknowledge her. I didn't need to. My success was my answer, a beacon that outshone her faded ambitions. As I stepped off the stage, a young woman approached, her eyes bright with determination. "Your story changed how I protect my work," she said. "How do you keep going after something like that?" I smiled, thinking of the conference room, the stolen slides, the moment I chose truth over silence. "You decide what your work is worth," I told her, "and you fight for it, no matter who stands in your way." That night, I sat in my Austin loft, the skyline glittering beyond my balcony like a canvas of stars. The succulents on my windowsill thrived, their green tips reaching for light, and my sketchbooks overflowed with new ideas, features for the app, concepts for future projects, dreams that felt boundless. The pain of Lauren's betrayal was a faint echo now, drowned out by the life I'd built. I thought of her, struggling in her new reality, her ambition reduced to a cautionary tale. I thought of the friends who'd stood by me, the team who'd believed in me, the artisans whose lives my app had transformed. I'd lost a friend, but I'd gained something greater, a clarity of purpose, a strength forged in betrayal's fire. My phone buzzed with an email, an invitation to keynote another conference, this time in London. I smiled, setting the phone down, and picked up a sketchbook, a fresh page waiting. What do you do when someone tries to steal your dream? You build a better one, bigger, brighter, and you make sure the world knows it's yours.